Good morning to those of you out there on the West Coast. Good afternoon to those of you here on the East Coast with me. It's a nice day out there. It's kind of casual. I'm trying to pull my energy up. It was funny right before I started the call, or right before I just came on live here. Almost had a sneeze, but because my back's broke, I'm like, no, don't sneeze. So it's fun to come on camera when you got things you have to worry about like that. Okay, so let me get rocking and rolling here in 1 second. Turn some of that off. We're going to dive in pretty fast to the training because I've got a lot I want to share. I have a couple of stories I'd like to share in the training related to it. But today's topic that I want to talk about is landing second meetings with federal buyers. As you build a relationship, this is a really important part of success as you build your company and as you're trying to pursue opportunities, it's a really important part of success is to have those relationships in place. But if people aren't meeting with you or they aren't meeting with you a second time, then it makes it hard for you to have success. And so we're going to be diving into that. I was asking here on this first slide about whether you've ever had first meetings where people just go silent. And I hear this a lot, right? Hey, I had a good meeting. It felt like it all went great, right? I did the right things. I shared the right information, et cetera. They really seemed to like me. I liked them. We had good conversation, but then it just didn't go anywhere. I didn't get the second meeting, or they've stopped. I've stopped hearing from them, et cetera. We call this sounding in sales. Think about a big whale. A whale will come up and take air and kind of ride on top of the waves of the water or whatever in the sea, and then the whale will go deep down into the ocean. And if you ever do whale watching, you're like, where'd the whale go? And it's just sounded. It's gone. It's down there, swimming underwater. It's having fun, but it's really, really deep. And sometimes our sales prospects, the people we're trying to build relationships with, are that same way, right? They just sound, and it doesn't mean anything. It just means they're underwater and not on top of the water, but it doesn't reflect how they feel about us. And that's an important thing to keep in mind, actually, because I didn't put that into today's training. But when people don't get back to you, it's just because of them. It's because of what's going on with them. I have a particular government agency and a set of people I'm trying to engage with, and they have sounded on me a little bit, but I know exactly why they're kind of sounding is because they're really fearful about the budget. If you're not tracking on this, today is September 25th, I think, Thursday. And unless Congress does something in the next few days, on October 1st, the government shuts down. Not only does it shut down, which has traditionally been a bad problem, where people are laid off temporarily, et cetera, but this administration is talking about if the government shuts down, then it's going to take advantage of that situation and just lay people off permanently. Imagine how that makes the people in the agencies that I'm trying to talk to or you're trying to talk to. And so if they're not talking to me, it's rarely because of me. Right. And I don't mean that in any kind of cocky way. I just mean it's rarely because of you or because of me. It's generally because of them. They're busy. They're caught up. I went silent on a whole bunch of people for the last 4 weeks because I broke my back on September 1st. I wasn't talking to anybody. Right. And I really didn't have the energy to even say anything. I just disappeared. I sounded. And so it's a thing to pay attention to. Building relationships. I talked about this a lot in the trainings I've done. And if you haven't watched my replays, I've done over 800 trainings. But building relationships like this, going from one meeting to the second meeting to the third, which is the path to developing a relationship, those activities are skill sets. They're skills that you develop. You learn how to do them. They talk about you have the knowledge. You begin to have the knowledge, develop the skill, and practice the skill. And you're following a process with those skills. When you follow the process, you're going to have success in the meetings that you want. You're going to be able to go from first to second meetings. This is what I'm going to be doing today in the training and talking to you about it. Last thing I just want to say in the slide, just to set the expectation as you go forward. Why is it so important to go from the first meeting to the second meeting? Why is it important to do this stuff? It's because these first meetings you have, they lead to the relationships. If you don't have a relationship, then you can't hear about opportunities. You can't really get introductions or learn more about an agency you're trying to pursue, et cetera. And when you do learn about the agency in more depth, when you do learn about more opportunities, then you can pursue those, which leads to more sales. And so just think about meetings. These meetings you're having are the beginning of the sales cycle, and you need to get in there and move forward. And so I want to talk to you about how do you the steps you can take to really make sure you're having more successful meetings that will lead eventually to more sales. I'm going to break up today's training into landing that second meeting. And by the way, the reason I say the second meeting is because I feel like a lot of us sometimes can get that first meeting. I do training on how to get the first meetings, but I think a lot of us get first meetings and we struggle with getting second meetings, which is so vital to the relationship building. And so that is what we're going into. And I'm going to break the training up into 3 sections today. The first thing I want to talk about is just the way I look at meetings. In the federal market, there's 3 types of meetings. And so I want to talk to you about those and help you understand those and how I see them as a salesperson. The second thing is I want to really make sure it's understood the difference between a great meeting and a successful meeting. Great meetings are no good to you. Successful meetings help you move forward. And then I'm going to wrap up with how to control the meeting flow. This is really how you can control the meetings in a way that leads to the second meeting and in fact leads to the relationship and leads to the opportunities that you're trying to pursue, et cetera. So that's how I'm going to break this up. If this is what you're here for and you like it, put Meetings Rock into the chat. Let me know you're there. Gets me a little energy I get energy from you when I see that. If you don't know who I am, my name is Neil McDonald. I'm the president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce, and I am founder of Call Plan AI. I want to welcome you to my federal sales training where I provide tips for success in the federal market. Since 2018, I've been teaching people like you that government contracting is not a secret. It's just a process. And when you follow a process A to Z, you have repeatable, predictable results. And this is what I want for you. That's what we're going to be diving into today. If you haven't connected with me on LinkedIn, follow me on LinkedIn for more training and content that I put out all around government contracting and the success in the market. And then also, for sure, make sure you're subscribing to the Government Contracting Success newsletter. This is our newsletter, my newsletter that I put out and share a lot of good information. And then last thing is tomorrow's training is planned for FY 2026 federal success there. Make sure you register for that. Excuse me, not tomorrow. I'm actually going to take tomorrow off because I realized I got a little aggressive in coming back in here. So I'm doing 3 trainings this week and I'll get back to pretty much daily next week. But sign up for that next week so that you can see the tips I provide for you and the specifics on how to plan for 2026 right now. Don't wait till you're in the middle of 2026. Plan this tomorrow on Monday on the 29th. Okay, so let's get rocking and rolling into the meat of today's training. The first thing I want to talk about is the 3 types of meetings that you encounter in federal sales. And this is my way of categorizing the 3 types of meetings because they are distinct. First thing, well, just really quickly, they are introduction meetings, capture meetings, and business development meetings. So introduction meetings, these are those typical type meetings we have where we see somebody at a networking event, or maybe we go to a matchmaking event, whatever it is, or you pick up the phone and you call somebody and you ask for an intro call. That's what I call them, right? Is an intro call. So an introduction meeting. And really, they don't know you, you don't know them, and you're going in for the first time. Sometimes you might think of these meetings as like capability briefings where you're going in and you're spewing your company's information, et cetera. I give a lot of guidance on how to have good first information or first meetings, these introduction calls. So go look at my previous training on that. But these are also, these introduction meetings are a piggyback off networking events, right? Even right now, I've got so many people who are in the chat. I appreciate you engaging. I get energy just by looking at that. But if you connected with each other, because this is your network, right? It's my network and it's your network. And if you reached out, if Laura connected with Alana, for example, and you guys hadn't met before, hey, I saw you on Neil's training. If you got time, let's connect for 15 minutes. Well, that's the idea of introduction meeting. And so those type of meetings have a different purpose around them and objective. You're really just trying to figure out, should we connect and talk more, or does it really not make sense? The second type of meeting are capture meetings. And I just call this a capture meeting. If you haven't ever heard me talk about federal sales, in federal sales, there's basically business development, which is finding opportunities, researching agencies, building relationships, and finding opportunities. So business development is about finding opportunities. Capture is about taking one opportunity and pursuing it to the win, and then proposal writing. And so here I'm saying capture meetings are about the individual opportunity you're trying to pursue. You might be reaching out and having meetings with the customer to learn more about their pain points and challenges. They might allude to it a little bit in the paperwork or the requirements, the scope, et cetera. But you want to get in there and have meetings where you can Get them to talk about their problems. And when you do, then your solution begins to align to those problems a lot more, and it gives you a competitive advantage. The other thing is objectives, right? The yin to the yang on that, if you will, are objectives. A lot of times in RFPs, RFIs, et cetera, you'll see a few objective bullet points. Well, everybody sees those. Everybody knows those. And so you want to get in and learn more. And this is in sales, this is just asking questions and having a discussion with the other person. But you're doing that around a particular opportunity, like, the $5 million opportunity you're going after. This is capture, understanding the pain points and the objectives. And then these type of meetings also enable you to talk about solutioning. And I want you to keep this in mind, because towards the end of today's training, I'm going to talk about, like, how do you control the meeting? How do you go forward? When you understand what type of meeting you're having, then you can understand how to prepare, because you don't prepare for each meeting the same way. In these capture meetings, I'm digging a lot more into the problems that a particular program office might have, and I'm digging more into the implication of those problems. If your program office is having these problems and it's impacting you, well, who else is impacted, right? And an example, this is the implication of your problem. And I like to use servers going up and down or something. If the servers are crashing, yeah, fine, that's an IT problem, but who's impacted by that? Well, the HR department can't do what they need to do. This department, that division can't do what they need to do because the servers are going up and down. And so getting in and talking about those pain points and objectives allows you to then start exploring solutions with them. And this is called solutioning if you haven't done it. But basically, I just look at the requirements and I say, well, I would probably solve the problem this way, right? And you want to be able to get in and bounce those ideas off the customer instead of just seeing a requirement, never really having a discussion, and then sending a solution in. Well, that solution is a generic solution to any customer who might have that problem. It is not a specific solution to that customer you're trying to win. But if you could have a discussion around the solution, hey, we're thinking about going this way. Have you guys tried that before? You figure out soft ways of asking those questions. And so you move forward. And then the last part of acquisition or capture meetings is the acquisition side. You're trying to talk to the contracting officer, and you're trying to influence the NAICS code that's going to be used, the contract vehicle that'll be used, the set aside that will be used. So you're trying to influence all that. That's a second type of meeting, is capture meetings. And then the third type are business development meetings. This is just my terms for it, right? So business development is about understanding an agency better than they understand themselves, building relationships, and identifying opportunities. Those three things make up business development, the way I describe it, and been doing it for 20 plus years. And so the idea of these kind of meetings, sometimes they're just getting in there and you're continuing to build that relationship. I might get in with Mark in the Navy and say, hey, can we touch base? I just wanted to, I saw some new things. I wanted to ask you about it. And we're just talking about certain activities they're doing. I might share some of the direction we're going with AI because they might be interested. Whatever it is, we're doing that. And it's the same thing, by the way, with teammates. It's not just federal buyers. Teammates is a similar type of way. You can have these relationship building meetings. But when you have these meetings, you're purposely moving the meeting forward or the relationship forward. You're not trying to just chit chat for the sake of chit chatting or something. The second thing in there is agency research. So you're going in and you're trying to learn more about an agency just in general. An example is I might start off trying to understand, let's say I'm doing AI or I want to do AI solutions. I might go in there and try to learn more about, who's heading up the AI initiatives, the IT department, of course, right? Well, what kind of freedom do the business units have to be able to do their own AI planning or exploring or prototyping, things like that? And so I'm doing agency research going in. I'm trying to find people. I'm trying to align maybe their strategic goals and strategic plans to different offices so I can get in and explore it. And I'm trying to look long term. This is different, by the way, than just looking at SAM, finding an opportunity, and responding. That's not really sales. It's totally fine. I'm totally okay with that. If I see an opportunity I like in SAM and I can respond to it and potentially win it, I'm going to go after it. But when we talk about business development, you're really trying to get in there and understand that agency. I like to say better than anybody in that agency, because most of the people in an agency aren't trying to understand the agency. They're just trying to understand their job. But when you try to understand an agency, you're trying to understand all of it. It's a lot more work, but you can do it. And then the third part that I talked about already in business development is you're trying to identify opportunities. So I would get in there. Let's say I'm meeting with a contracting officer and it's a business development type meeting. then I might be trying to figure out, where are your simplified acquisition opportunities coming out? How are you, I see the forecast. I know you're telling me to look in SAM, but how else can I begin to identify opportunities early on? Like, how can I track RFIs that might be, 1 or 2 months out that you already know that are in there? Well, if I can build those relationships and then begin to identify the opportunities, I get a much earlier head start. Okay, so these are the three types of meetings that you can run into. And so you want to be preparing for these type of meetings in different ways. Introduction meetings, capture meetings, or business development meetings. When you go in to have a meeting, I would encourage you to start thinking about it from this perspective. And then I'm going to go deeper, actually. So when you have these three types chosen, one of the three types, then you start thinking about, well, what's this particular meeting about? And so that'll be much more deeper. Okay, I talked about there's a difference between having a great meeting and a successful meeting. Great meetings are ones where everybody loves each other, and successful meetings are ones where the sale moves forward. This was a really important thing for me to designate. I started teaching this years ago, like, I don't know, 6-7 years ago, at least, when I started noticing people would have meetings and they sounded great. Everything about it was great. Oh my God, they loved us. We were able to present it. We were really talking about the technology and stuff with them. But I began to notice that no one, like a lot of these people, a lot of you, that nothing was moving forward. Just people really liked you, but then it didn't move forward. And this is when I made this distinction between great and successful. A successful meeting is one that is measurable and moves the meeting forward. And so I have here a couple of bullets on this where a way you can tell a great meeting is that everyone loved everyone. Like, that's the first thing we talk about is like, oh, it's such a great meeting. They were so nice. That scares me. The minute I hear a salesperson say that, I'm like, oh my God, well, what was the measurable part? We'll come to that in a second, right? This another kind of a symptom of a great meeting is where we talk more than the other person does. It's really important to get the other person to talk. Easily, you want it to be 60-40 in their favor, or even 70-30, where I'm only talking 30% of the time and they're talking 70% of the time. I'm not there to hear myself talk or to just be able to spew things, right? I can send that later. I'm there to learn, and it doesn't matter what meeting it is, intro, capture, or business development. It doesn't matter which meeting it is. I want to hear them talk. I want to hear what their concerns are or their aspirations are for their mission, their organization. And so I don't want to do more talking than they do. And then the last thing is talking with people. You can measure this yourself when you have a great meeting, but nothing specific came out of it. There was no next step. You didn't schedule a meeting. You didn't have something written down that was a clear movement forward. And I'm going to talk to you about how do you define that in a minute. But you need to have clear, measurable steps forward. Otherwise, you're just having great meetings, which is cool, but those do not lead to sales. And you want to make sales and revenue for your company. Just a couple of quick bullets on successful meetings and how you can kind of see these. First off, a successful meeting is measured by meeting a written objective. In software development, we have this term definition of done in agile software development. And if I was saying, hey, I want developer to build me a button, right? That's a feature, let's say, a button that when I push it, it prints. They go, oh, great. And they take that and they go away. And they come back and I look at it and I'm like, no, this is not what I want. I push it and it prints to a printer. I don't want that. I want it to I want to push the button and it prints to PDF, Adobe PDF or something. And so the idea behind a definition of done is I say, hey, I want this button and it's going to print. And the way we know you're done developing is when I push it, it will enable me to choose to push it to the printer or push it to an Adobe PDF. Hopefully that example is simple enough that it makes sense. Well, in sales meetings, that's these meetings that we go into, it's the same thing. You want a written objective. When I go in, my definition of done for this meeting, my measurement of success is this and this. And I'll talk a little bit about that more in a second. The second thing is you want key questions asked and answered. So I'm going to talk about a call plan in a minute where you write down questions and you're writing down questions that are leading to that objective you're trying to achieve. And these questions, you want to make sure you're asking them. You don't want to take the time to prepare and then go off cuff. And so a measurement of a successful meeting is that you are asking these questions that you prepared ahead of time. and they're answering them. And and also you're able to pull a thread, right? An example, I might have wanted this farther on, but if I just use this example really quick, let's just say I'm meeting with another company as a teammate, and my objective is that I want to get a NDA going. So to me, an NDA is a step forward in the relationship and a step forward in the opportunity, because often, two companies, we get an NDA in place. Now, an NDA for a small business is no big deal. If you team up with another small, they're like, oh yeah, here's my NDA. Send it back when you get a chance and you're done. But if you're over 30 million, then you generally got legal counsel or some sort inside your company. Certainly the bigger 50, 100 million, $1 billion, you got legal in there. And so the process for getting an NDA is entirely different. A business developer, capture person at a larger firm needs to go back and put it through that process. And so if my objective is that NDA, then a question I might have, for example, is, hey, what's your process for working with a company like mine? For example, do you guys put NDAs in place? Who's responsible for that? Would you mind sharing your process a little bit? And then I just shut up and I let them talk about the process. And if I don't quite get what I want, which is how is an NDA going to get moving forward? Like, do you activate the NDA? Should I shoot an email over? Do we get Sally engaged? I ask a little bit more questions. And so when I ask those key questions and I get them answered, those questions are driving to the objectives. And then the last thing is, you have a successful meeting if it moved the sale forward. And in capture, that means you've identified more of the pains. You've identified more of the objectives. You've identified potential evaluation board type people, like the people who look at the proposals coming in and who will evaluate them. You want to try to figure out who they are. It's not an easy thing to do, but that's part of the measurement of a successful movement forward, or a successful meeting where you move in the meeting forward. And same thing with a relationship. You can tell that you move the relationship forward if they're agreeing to meet on a regular basis, or they're going to do something for you. Hey, let me get that document, I'll get back. Well, they're committing to helping you. That's a good sign in a relationship. So that's just really quickly difference between a great and successful relationship. I wanted to pause really quick and thank our sponsor for these lives. For the next year, Voltron is sponsoring us. And I'm really excited about this because these trainings, I do them for free, or I do them on my dime over and over again. And I love that Voltron sees the value that I'm providing out to industry and to you. So do me a favor, say thanks to Voltron in the chat. Check them out because they help accelerate proposal writing. They help you win more work through AI proposal writing. And I'm really excited to talk more about them as we go into the year. But you can check out Voltron.ai. Thanks a lot, Voltron. I really appreciate it. Okay, so let's talk about how to control your meeting to ensure you're going to have a successful meeting, not just a great meeting, right? So the first, and I'm watching my time because I only got 7 minutes left, and I'll go through here fairly fast. But I've got at least 50 trainings on call planning, which is kind of what I'm talking about here. Call planning and having having successful meetings going forward. Okay, so the first step I have here is, if you want to be able to control the meeting more, research the person in the office and the agency you're meeting. The reason this is really important is because you can reference certain things from your research about those people you're talking to. This increases your authority. So when we go in, our authority levels are like this. Sometimes we go in and this is us, right? And we're below the person we're meeting with. But when we do certain things and say certain things, we start shifting the authority in our favor, and we can shift it so that we're a higher level of authority than they are. This does not mean any kind of negative controlling way. It just means they're trusting us in that meeting, and they're letting us drive that meeting more. So we're in more control. One of the ways you could do that is by researching those people and what's important to them, where they've talked before, what documents have been written. You don't have to go crazy, right? You can do initial research if you're doing intro meetings or something. But as you move forward in that relationship, you definitely want to keep diving in. So that's the first thing. The second thing about controlling the meetings that you go into so that you can have a successful meeting is to know why you're meeting with them. I gave you an example of why you're meeting with them with the 3 meeting types. Oh, I'm meeting with you for an introduction. I'm meeting with you to discuss this particular opportunity, and I'm meeting with you to discuss your agency and mission priorities, et cetera, right? But know why you're meeting with them. Sometimes we go and meet with people just for the heck of it. And that's a waste of your time and it's a waste of their time. I'm not saying don't meet with them. I'm saying stop for a second. And in order to have a successful meeting, pause and go, why am I meeting with them? What's in it for them? You don't have to overly think this, but what's in it for them and what's in it for me? Sometimes it's totally okay to say, I don't know if there's anything in it for them. And you can just be clear about that. Hey, really today, I'm just trying to get a couple of questions answered and just kind of hear your thoughts. And then maybe I can come back and bring some value to our relationship, right? You can be candid about that. And by the way, that's a skill set. What I just did there, you just learn how to talk that way and do that. But it takes repetition. Okay, so that was the second one, is know why you're meeting with them. And then the third one, which is the bulk of what I've been teaching for at least the last 8 years, and I've been doing longer than this, is prepare a call plan sheet. A call plan sheet is just basically, you think about a meeting agenda, but it's a guide to your meeting. I put Call Plan AI here because I'm automating what I've been doing manually for a long time, and I've been and I'm working with early subscribers and teaching them. But a call plan sheet, and you can go find it. I've got the template I share out there online, left and right. But a call plan helps you focus on the most important things. The first thing is your objectives, right? When you're preparing your call plan sheet, you're determining to yourself, what is my measurement of success? My measurement of success is I want an introduction, or I want access to a strategic document, or I want to get an NDA signed, or I want to get, like I have somebody who's in Call Plan AI as a subscriber, and he might be in here today actually, but Keith, he and I were talking, and his objective when he and I were, because right now I'm actually helping people at 3 o'clock every day manually do what they're doing so I can then automate it. But his initial stab at an objective was, I want to be able to team up and, maybe find some opportunities to work on, such as this. And I went, what's this? And he goes, oh, that's a really good opportunity. I mean, that'd be great if we get that. I'm like, well, get rid of the rest of this stuff. Just say your objective is to get placed on the team for opportunity A, B, C. And he actually had another opportunity, D, E, F, for example. And I made that a secondary objective. That's what you want. Don't waste your time thinking about other stuff or adding other stuff in, because you will do anything but the thing you want, or you'll have discussions and you'll come away with a great meeting, but you wouldn't have gotten what you want. He actually did this, and in 15 minutes, in a 45-minute call, in the first 15 minutes, he nailed both of his objectives, because he started it with and I'll talk about this, maybe I'll jump ahead to the purpose statement, where he started it with a clear purpose statement that set the page for everybody, saying the reason for today's meeting is this. How's that sound to you, right? It's like the idea of a purpose statement is to get agreement that this is why we're meeting. And if you're the one stating it, you're in control of the meeting. He said, look, the purpose of the meeting today is to identify a couple of opportunities we can work together and team together on. How's that sound to you? And they said, that sounds great. And so then he started talking about, well, the first one I want to talk about is ABC, right? And this guy's got 20 years experience. Before that, he might get himself kind of caught up in different discussions. They seem really high level or something, but they're not driving to his measurement of success. He came away with both of his objectives met. He had a successful meeting that did that because he wrote those down. I put in here icebreaker. That's a really important one for me. Don't talk to people about golf or the weather, right? When you come in and you're having a meeting, research them and go, oh, hey, like, Dave Waltz. If I was going to meet with David Waltz, I might sit there and say, hey, I noticed you're doing those Wednesday, and I think he might be saying it somewhere in here, but I noticed you're doing those Wednesday meetings that he does with industry. I'm like, how's that working? A lot of industry showing up, and he's going to go, oh yeah, they're really great. They're this. Cool. Let's move on to the meeting. Right? I didn't sit there and say, hey, I heard you went to Disneyland, and now we're stuck talking about rides and how kids puke and all this other stuff. It's like, keep your icebreakers towards the purpose. And then the last part about call planning is prepare 5 to 10 questions that guide you towards those objectives you're looking for. Similar to what I said a minute ago about the NDA and what's your process for the NDA. I put here a couple of things. Get an agreement on the purpose. This is a way to get control of the meeting. Is right in the beginning, you say, hey, the purpose of today's meeting is this. How's that sound to you? And they're going to say yes. And then I'm going to go, hey, I wrote down 5 or 10 questions, or I like saying the exact number. Like I wrote 7 questions. You're going to see me look down. That's just what I'm looking at, is trying to make sure I ask all of them. And they'll like that. And the last thing is keep your focus on the written objectives, right? You're in that meeting. You've got the objectives. Like I said, with Keith, keep your focus there. Okay, here's what I want you to remember, because I'm almost out of time. First thing is strive for successful meetings. Begin to believe that you should have successful meetings, not just great meetings where everybody loves everybody. Second thing is determine those clear objectives, those measurements you have for the meetings you're going into. Don't go into another meeting without a clear measurement of success for you and your company. The third thing is use that control call plan the way I mentioned and fill it out so that you can control the meetings as you go forward. All right, I'm out of time right now. Sign up for next week's training on the 29th. Just remember, government contracting, it's not a secret. It's just a process. Part of the process is ending on time. I am out of here. Have a great weekend.